What has happened, everybody? James Hancock here, back to offer my 100% spoiler-free initial review of the new series 1899 coming to Netflix on November 17th. Netflix was kind enough to send me the first 6 episodes, but there's still 2 episodes to go, which apparently I'll be getting my hands on close to the release of the show. So this is going to be just my initial kind of impressions of the show, and then I'll do a proper season 1 review next week once I've had a chance to consume all 8 episodes from filmmakers Janche Friche and Baran Bo Odar. For people who don't know who they are, that is the writing directing team that's responsible for one of my favorite shows of the last 10 years, Dark. And my 3 most popular videos that I've ever placed on this channel were all reviews of Dark Season 1, Season 2, and Season 3, and I just got completely sucked into that show, and I was just totally blown away. So to say that I've been looking forward to 1899 is the understatement of the century, but I got to be very careful about how I discuss it, because Netflix gave me a very specific list of bullet points of things that I cannot discuss related to the plot. And I might even go one step further than Netflix, because if I even tell you the genre of this new show, that could be a spoiler. This is one of those shows that's going to be for people who like puzzles and riddles and figuring things out and following trails of breadcrumbs. They're going to be absolutely fascinated. But what I can tell you, at least what I can tell you from the outset, is all there in the trailer. So here's the official synopsis or premise from Wikipedia, which is right on the money, at least on the surface. A group of European migrants leave London on a steamship to start new lives in New York City, but when they encounter another migrant ship adrift on the open sea, their journey begins to turn into a nightmare. So that's totally fair. You have all these fascinating characters with all these complex backstories and secrets they're keeping and so on and so forth, and kind of hidden agendas, and they're all heading to New York, and the year is 1899, and there's this ship that's been missing for 4 months, and they bump into it. And the question is, what do? Do they investigate? Do they keep going? Whatever the case might be. And when you have a ship with 1,500 people on it, obviously everybody's going to disagree about what to do. But to say this show is just about a missing ship or a potentially haunted ship being discovered on the open seas would be like saying Dark is merely a show about a missing child. And Dark starts out as a show about a missing child, and then it turns into the most complex time travel story ever conceived by human beings for the big or small screen, and I was absolutely riveted. So suffice to say, 1899 begins as described, and then it starts to evolve and change. And if you watch the trailer, you'll see some pretty astonishing nightmarish imagery, which teases just how bonkers this show really gets. And I don't think it's too early at this point to say that this filmmaking team is one of the best filmmaking teams in the world. While they don't exclusively separate their duties into writing and directing, and they do have some people helping, but when it comes to finding a filmmaking team where you have a consistent voice and style and vision, that's rare and hard to find. Most shows employ a writing staff and a directing staff. And while you might have a showrunner kind of keeping their hand on the tiller, dictating the overall tone and style, very rarely do you see a show where the style is so singular that it feels like the work of an auteur filmmaker, where visually it's unmistakable who's behind the camera, who's behind the story. And during this era where we get so many limp, recycled, nostalgic remakes and sequels, and just franchise fatigue, where these ideas have long since outlived their usefulness, or at least the filmmakers behind them have, I just love seeing a filmmaking team that's so ambitious, that's determined to tell great, ambitious genre stories that challenge the intellect. Like, they actually place demands on the viewer. You got to sit up and pay the fuck attention, or you're going to have no idea what's going on. And even if you're taking notes and chugging espresso, it still might be a challenge, but I love the fact that there are still storytellers out there that give the audience the benefit of the doubt that they are sharp and they are intelligent and that they can keep up and that they crave an experience with depth and complexity. And like with their show Dark, what I love is that this show has an almost surgical mathematical precision to the way the story is engineered. And I love that when you can tell writers are really putting a lot of thought into how something is constructed. When do you tease certain clues or mysteries? How do you pay them off? At what rate do you pay them off? Like, how can you keep the audience invested and curious and dying to know more, but at the same time satisfying their cravings so they don't feel like they're just getting screwed over? Like, I feel like there's a whole generation of writers who studied at the feet of J.J. Abrams, who learned a lot of bad lessons, who have gone on to ruin a lot of franchises, whether you're talking about Star Trek or Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, or whatever the case might be, where people describe it as mystery box storytelling, but I just describe it as like lackluster, incompetent storytelling. But there are a lot of screenwriters out there who think they're being super complex, when really they're just bullshit artists. These storytellers are the real deal. They know how to create atmosphere. They know how to create a sense of mood, of tension, of suspense, of place. I mean, the world on this boat, it lives and breathes. And I know a lot of people out there who watch Netflix like to watch all their shows and movies dubbed. I'm going to implore people not to do so with this show, because you have characters from all over the world, all of whom are speaking in their own languages. Just put on your big boy pants, put on the subtitles, and just get the full experience. And I imagine that there'll be a lot of people like myself where like 45 or 50 seconds in on the first episode, I was in love. Without saying what you see, you get to see some exotic imagery and basically, how can I say, this is impossible to do, like selling how cool something is without telling anybody any details. But it starts very strong for people who like great genre storytelling. And I'm not going to say what kind of genre, but you'll be immediately on the hook. And I have no clue if this show will be an international phenomenon like Dark. It's so hard to anticipate when a show on Netflix will take off like Squid Game, or if something will just have like an obscure, passionate cult following. But Dark managed to get people's attention. And I think part of the appeal of Dark was that you had very human characters in a small town, people falling in and out of love, people having affairs, and that's very easy to get emotionally invested in. I think this show is going to be a little tougher just because the setting is in the past. It's so otherworldly, and things get really bizarre and really complex really quickly. But the show does manage to keep human beings at the core, and no matter how dangerous and terrifying things become, there's nothing more dangerous and terrifying than the human heart and what it's capable of in this show. Now, because I've only seen the first 6 episodes, I have no idea how well this show will stick the landing. I have no idea what revelations will come. I have no idea if we're even getting a season 2, or if it even sets up a season 2, so I can't speak to what degree that the whole thing kind of comes together. But I do have a few critiques. As much as I love this team, as much as I love this show, as much as I love their whole approach to storytelling, there's a point around like the halfway through episode 2 up through like halfway through episode 3 where it'll start to feel like a joyless, heavy slog, and I worried that I was going to be disappointed overall. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that the central character, played by Emily Beecham, she's very intense and she's very brooding, but she's also very internal. And it makes it hard for her to carry the weight of the show. I mean, obviously with Dark, you have 2 young lovers. It's very easy to get on board with 2 young lovers going through all these horrible experiences. But with this show, it's a little tougher. But then it turns a corner by the end of episode 3, where it really starts to get bonkers. And by episode 5, I was like, oh my God, this show is just bananas. And I was back in love with it. And so I think that'll be the test. I think episode 2 and 3 will be kind of a breaking point for some people. But if they can get over that hump, at least 4, 5, and 6 deliver. 7 and 8, once again, I have no clue. But for fans of Dark, there's at least one familiar face so far, with the character of Ike Larson, played by Andreas Piechmann. I don't speak German, so I have no idea how to pronounce his name, but he was part of the heart and soul of the appeal of Dark, and he does a damn good job in this. And I don't want to say too much about the overall ensemble cast. Just, once again, I love the way that this show employs so many different characters from so many different backgrounds and nationalities, almost like a great Agatha Christie mystery novel, like a classic potboiler like Murder on the Orient Express or something like that. But one more criticism, as the story gets increasingly complex, sometimes the show struggles to give all these characters something to do, whereas in the first episode or two where it's all character building, then it's very easy for them to explore their backstories and what they're trying to achieve and that sort of thing. But as the story gets more action-driven and you're dealing with these concepts and these problems that are truly otherworldly, sometimes the characters just become cannon fodder, but it's impossible for me to say whether or not all these characters have a satisfying conclusion to their storylines without seeing the last 2 episodes. But I'm jumping out of my skin wanting to see these last 2 episodes, so much so that last night I basically pulled an all-nighter watching these first 6 episodes. I almost started watching the show again, but I was like, you know what? Take a break, give the show a little bit of air, wait a week, and then next week get back into the show. But getting back to the things that I love, music continues to be one of the best weapons in the arsenal of this filmmaking team. They really know how to use well-known pop tunes as well as just cool, eerie synth music to incredible dramatic effect, whether you're talking about during the title sequence or during the episodes or whatever the case might be. I just love their style. I hope they continue to work with Netflix indefinitely because it's hard to think of any other filmmaking team out there that's working in the realm of genre, science fiction, horror, fantasy, superheroes, mystery, whatever the case might be. I mean, if you like great genre storytelling as opposed to full-blown straight drama, most filmmakers today are very cautious, or at least the people financing their projects are very cautious, and they allow them to take very few risks. The ultimate risk being creating a story from scratch. And the fact that these filmmakers only work with material that they're inventing from scratch and do such an amazing job and have such a readily identifiable signature style, I basically just can't bang the drum enough on their behalf. And I hope that the success of their show Dark and hopefully the success of 1899, once again, can't predict these things at all. I hope that they're going to inspire a generation of filmmakers and storytellers who want to create their own worlds, who want to take their own risks, because I'm sick to death of watching shows where something like Star Wars, which has been around since 1977, just feels inert and frozen and trapped in amber, with a lot of second-rate storytellers coming in and trying their hands at it. And occasionally, obviously, you'll get something that's a little better than the norm, but I want the next Star Wars. I want the next Lord of the Rings. I want the next fucking Marvel. I want new shit. And these filmmakers, whose names I always butcher their pronunciation, but Janche Friche, if I'm saying that correctly, and Barenboim Nodar, they're wildly original, and I fucking love what they do, and I just can't wait to watch the next 2 episodes, or the last 2 episodes, next week. Especially since episode 6 ends on the cliffhanger of all cliffhangers, where for people who enjoy stories where it makes your mind explode, where you're like, what the fuck? I think a lot of people are going to be, whoever makes it to the end of episode 6, who doesn't throw up their hands in despair because the show's too hard to follow, they're going to feel very rewarded for their patience. But before I wrap up this video, I have to bring you a word from Manscaped, the official sponsor of my podcast, Wrong Reel. This holiday season, I'll be giving thanks to our friends over at Manscaped. Everyone loves turkey and stuffing, but you'll be looking like dessert with the help of Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0. The leaders in below-the-waist grooming have blessed you with the ultimate Thanksgiving dinner topic. Tell your in-laws about your new cutting-edge ball trimmer and gift yourself or the man in your life the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Trim your pumpkins by going to manscaped.com and using the discount code WRONGREEL in all caps for free shipping and 20% off. Inside, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. Think of it as a cornucopia for your balls. So if you like my show, Wrong Reel, or you like this YouTube channel, consider making a purchase over at Manscaped using the discount code WRONGREEL. That is the best way to support my endeavors in the world of film and television commentary. But can't wait to hear how people respond to this show next week. Once again, it's coming out on Thursday next week or Friday next week. But if you enjoyed this video, remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and if you want to talk more about any subject under the sun, you can always find me on Twitter at Geeking Out. But I can't thank you enough for watching this video. I really appreciate it, but more importantly, as always, onwards and upwards.